Alright, so here we start the Indian Mountain Trail north of Idlewild. Let's see how this goes. It's supposed to be fairly challenging. It's certainly cold. Alright. So we're following the prescription of making sure that you're in first gear when you don't know the surroundings and you don't know the environment or the trail. And that's a perfect description of how well I know this area. Never been here before. Heard interesting, or rather read Onyx Trail's coverage of it. And it is supposed to be a fairly challenging trail. And I think it is because of the relative steepness in certain sections, but we'll see how this goes. Again, I'm here with my friend Nick, who is somewhere behind me. But right now it's mostly just downhill, go slow, take it easy. There's certainly lots of challenging. It looks like I certainly would not be able to do this with my truck. I don't think I have the clearance for it, but this is a fairly steep section going downhill, so I can imagine what it's like going uphill. And we're going to follow a lot of these tracks. It looks like there's a Jeep that came up here recently. It's pretty chilly here, so I'm definitely not even though Nick's European, so he can handle shorts a cold day like this. We're about 50 degrees on trail. Ooh, there's a nice blast of cold air coming from the fog that's rolling. We've got clouds rolling right through. We're at about 4,000 feet, and we're going to be going down to 4,000, going up to like 6,000. I don't remember all the details. We'll take a look on Onyx Trails for a while. I'm going to go really slow on this flat stuff just for that, because there's really no hurry. But so this is a really rutted area, and you go over this kind of stuff. Cross right over there. I'll go really slow. Boom. Nothing to it. So again, we're not here for a race. We're just going to go take our time. And as I've mentioned on other videos, it's not the more challenging technical sections that that an e-bike will fail you. It's going to be on this slippery stuff here when you least expect it. You'll make a turn, you think you've got some grip, and you don't. And that'll bring you down, it'll cause a washout. Exactly what you don't want to do. So like here's a little feature. This is just a drop, but you can do it. Puts you in a gully. This is way too narrow for a... Ooh, it's cold. Ooh. So we're on the Indian Mountain Trail, which is a fairly technical off-road trail, and I'm riding the 2022 Rungu Dualie XR Rubicon Trail Edition, and Nick, a friend of mine, he is riding the 2022 Rungu Dualie Steep, and we're here on this fairly technical trail. I'm riding in pretty low level, largely so that Nick can help him. This is his first time off-roading. You see, I'm in power level 3. We're going a pretty steep grade, and I'm using in second gear with a Box Prime 9 setup, which is essentially the same as the first gear that is on the Dualie Steep that Nick is riding. And it may not look very steep on the, or at least that last section may not have looked very steep from the camera's perspective. I know cameras have a tendency to flatten stuff, but it was, it was certainly challenging. And this is a beautiful location. And I probably want to give him some guidance coming up here. Well, let's see. It's actually not that hard. Just going around these things. Like we say in the videos, in our training videos, that you really, if you don't know the terrain, then stick to first gear. And I'm in second because it's the same as his first, and just play around with the power levels. I'm in power level 3, and it's fine. So you can go right up this thing like that. It's kind of fun. It's pretty. It's a fairly rutted trail, and now we're getting in some rocks, more like what we would expect in a lot of the trails, rocks and roots, a lot of the trails that I've been on. And it's just another beautiful day. This is Peter with Rungu, and we're just doing with a friend of mine of 30 years in the mountains of San Bernardino. So around, actually we're in the shadow of San Jacinto, which is on the backside of Palm Springs, and using the techniques that we just talked about with Rungu. Just trust the bike and you'll take it places you don't think it'll go. This is a trail that reminds me of the trail I did last year about this time in Arizona, near Prescott. Although I believe this one's longer, and frankly these sections are a little bit steeper, but the rocks and the layout and the ruts are very much in line with what they have out there. That's really beautiful. So, and so here's a great example of riding on an angle. We are going up some pretty steep stuff. So you hear the motor whining. It's just that steep. Now I'm saddled not just with the bike being heavier and having a second battery, but I also have a good 20-pound pack on my back, and I'm about 190, 200 all clothed. So this little machine is really up to the task of hauling me up, and we'll take a look at the stats later, but this is pretty steep, so I know we're gaining a lot of ground. Yeah, so am I. It's just too steep for two. This is a challenge when you get stuck on a ridge like that. You can't really get started because you can't get your balance immediately. All right. Wow. So this is fantastic. It's definitely like a great place for us to stop and take pictures. Hope we get a chance to do that in a bit. Doesn't look like we're at the summit yet. Again, kind of the terrain that we've been on is certainly challenging, and we're using a lot of skills that are well described in the Rungu in our tutorials. You'll notice that even though the trail is really sloped in all sorts of directions, I'm able to track effectively and efficiently, and that all just comes from me leaning into the trail. So if I were to stop now, I'd hear a lot of scrub just because one wheel's just not even in contact. The downslope wheel is not even in contact with the terrain, but I still have the upper wheel, which is. So with that, I'm able to maintain perfectly good control. Like right up here, it's going to be another rutted section, which is, first it maybe look a little daunting, but it's totally doable. And right here, I'm going to choose the easier path. There's certainly a harder path you can take. Just ride around it. And take me higher. I'll better wait up for Nick again. Cross over here. I could have gone over that rock. Why bother? And this is I can imagine a fantastic Jeep trail. don't see that every day, do you? Wow. Holy macaroni. This is pretty awesome. Oh, I didn't do anything there. Okay. So being in first gear, when you don't know the terrain, you don't know the terrain you're on, and you don't know what you're doing out here, is the right call, even though it's really slow in these flat sections. I don't know, if I don't know what's going to be around the corner, then I'd rather be prepared to go straight up a hill than sacrifice that just for, sacrifice that for speed, which is what I would get if I ran in a higher gear. So here's a great example. We're going to go up that section, which is pretty steep. This is really, really neat. I feel privileged to be out here. This is a rutted trail, so I understand why they've given it a fairly high difficulty designation. But with Rungu, really not that much of a challenge. Or I shouldn't say that, it's got its challenges for sure. I guess what? These rollers, it's crazy. That's craziness. That is crazy stuff. So, this is, I'm gonna get down the rut. Down we go. This is really turning into a challenge, but an exciting and fun one versus a really scary one so far. I hope it continues along those lines. Again, we could go over those rocks. In fact, the grip's a little bit better on rocks in general. So if you're I could not imagine being very successful or having an easy time with this with a Jeep, that's for sure. So I think the designation of a 7 out of 10 in terms of difficulty is probably on the mark. And actually I want to slow down a little bit because the wind chill is not what I was prepared for. All right. I wouldn't be surprised if he walks that section because that is pretty gnarly. All right, cool. So it looks like that was or I want to say the toughest section we've hit so far. Again, slowing down because it is pretty freaking cold up here. I'm sure there's going to be more like that coming up. Wow. No, this is nothing. But this is a pretty gnarly trail. Any doubts about that are quickly put to rest if you decide to do it in the future. And it's definitely going the direction that we went is what I'd recommend, because this is a lot more challenging than I can imagine this going uphill. Doing this trail uphill is a hell of a lot more challenging than the trails we did for getting up to the summit from the other side. But still, I mean, Rungu handles it. All right. It's certainly sections like that that make everything else a lot easier to handle. And that's the secret, certainly, of Rungu, that you want to being a soft sand like that again is kind of a welcome thing. It takes all the bumps out and makes it almost so much easier. Oh, yeah, I forgot we're in power level 1. Yeah, you want to go around that. The clouds are coming through, and I'm feeling it. It's the bite of the low temperatures. Need to get back into power level 2. Get some of this. It looks like we got some new challenges afoot. Yeah, but it's the same. Yeah, we're just aiming for the path of least resistance, I guess. Yeah, the side slip is so manageable, and the ability just to slow down, see where you're going to go, instead of just bombing it. That's more my speed, and I get plenty of time to look at the obstacles down below when I brake, so I can avoid a lot of stuff just like I did. So, pretty cool. Here's the rock, looks like a little rock garden. So either route is probably good. And I'm gonna slow down now because it's cold. When the clouds come in, and we're riding through clouds right now, that's when it really I don't have a good windbreaker on. I think I'm going to change into that a little bit as conditions don't improve. I'm going to cross over here, go over, and it looks like we are at the head of the trail. That's pretty cool. That's pretty good. It was a pretty awesome run. And now we're going to go left, and we're going to take a slightly easier path back onto the main artery, main road, and then work our way back. That was it was just 1.4 miles from where we stopped last, although that was a jarring 1.4 miles, and certainly some of the more difficult that I've ever done.